Afternoon, everybody, or buenas tardes. Welcome to this, one of our many events that the Chamber's putting on over this year. And welcome to the British Chamber of Commerce in Spain and our seminar here in Andalucía, Challenges and Opportunities for the Spanish Property Sector. Some of you probably all know me, but I'm not sure. My name is Derek Langley. I'm the Regional Vice President for the British Chamber of Commerce here in Andalucía, also a member of the Chamber's Governing Council, so I'm quite heavily involved in what the Chamber does. Welcome this afternoon to all of our guests. I'll talk about our speakers in a second. We have members from the region. We also have members from Madrid and Barcelona, CBRE, Richard Ellis, Sabil Zagira Newman, just a couple, and I think Charmaine Arboon, the British Consul, is joining us a little bit later on. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Today's event is topical. It's probably very timely, and it will reflect the state of the market, the property sector in this region. But remember, Andalucia's, really famous for a couple of things: tourism, real estate, and for those that don't know it, technology. As you know, we have three very large technology parks in Andalucía: Malaga, Granada and Seville, with over 2,000 companies in there. All of those people have to live somewhere and buy property or do something. So there's a market there. So as far as we're concerned, the Chamber, let me tell you a little bit about that in a second. But first of all, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers today. Most of our speakers are members of the regional committee in Andalucía. I'd like to introduce Setareh Mohregi. Setareh is the International Department Director of Gilmar Real Estate. She's based in Marbella, and she's also the Vice President of the leading property agents of Spain, LPA Association. Alex Radford is partner and founder of My Lawyer in Spain, MLS Solicitors. Mark Elliott, owner and director of Fluent Finance. Ignacio Ortega, Regional Sales Director for Currencies Direct, and Campbell Ferguson, owner and director of Survey Spain SL. What we've tried to do is bring together experts in all of the sectors relating to the property and real estate market, which you can see here are very, very well represented, and discuss the market as it is today. For those who don't know who the British Chamber of Commerce is, and there's many people on here that haven't been here before, the British Chamber of Commerce in Spain was formed in 1908 in Catalonia. So it is not a new organisation. We are a very well established and very well respected trade association. We have over 300 members in Spain, some of the largest companies and smaller SMEs in Barcelona and Andalucía. We have 3,000 contacts, some 2,900 event attendees, and we put on in a normal year, a physical year, 60 to 70 events. At this point in time, because of the pandemic, we put on about 50 online events, this is one of them today. Normally, the Chamber in Andalucía puts on an event every month, and this is basically one of them. We will be holding a few more events this year. Next month, at the end of April, we have a sponsored event by La Caixa Bank that will be held at Los Monteros Paddle and Tennis Club. That will either be a business breakfast or a cocktail. Following that in May, we have a large tech event at Malaga Tech Park, the Parque Tecnológico in Malaga, in collaboration with the Department of International Trade. And that's going to be a very high-level event, which we expect a very, very large attendance. And following that, we'll have our summer cocktail, and followed by, at the end of the year, one of our other events. Because we are changing now from a virtual model to hopefully a more physical model, the first event, or the second event that we'll be doing, will be at Los Monteros. The first one was a couple of months ago at the Palacio de Congreso in Marbella with CIT Marbella. So we understand that physical events are what it's all about. But on the other side, the virtual events we've been doing give a wider network and a wider opportunity to speak to other people. Today, we're going through, after each speaker has spoken about their subject, we will be giving a poll to everybody, and then we'll have a Q&A, which will be obviously quite interesting. So what we're looking at today is a sense of what is going on in this region. We're obviously talking about the whole of Spain. We're talking about the key drivers, which is tourism, which is immigration, which is everything to do with getting people here to look at properties, about the financing of those properties, about the conveyancing of those properties, and how companies sell those properties when people cannot be present to actually view them. So there's a lot to be discussed today. What I'd like you to do now is to mute your microphones if that's possible, so we don't have any noise. Also look at the chat, because if you want to make any connections through the event, then you can do this. You can do this through the chat. That's the object of today's discussion. From my point of view, and from a lot of feedback we're getting at the moment, that the market, there's a lot of positivity in the market. The key things are there to make the market active again. And so let's see what our experts and our panel have to say. So I'll hand this over to Setareh Mohregi from Gilmar. And Setareh, if you can give us your view of what's happening, the state of the market, not just in the Costa, but generally, and how you see the future, say in the next 6 months for this sector. Setareh.
Yeah, many thanks, Derek. Thank you to the British Chamber of Commerce for organizing this webinar and giving us the opportunity to attend. As Derek said, please watch the chat. So we have set up a quick poll for you to fill in so that we can see later the results. Just a short presentation of who we are, Gilmar Real Estate. Myself, I've been working for them 17 years in this great company, where they have taken great care of their staff. Thanks to the digitalization process that we started 6 years ago, in the middle of the pandemic, the company did not stop at any time to attend customers and owners. Gilmar Real Estate has more than 37 years of experience in the real estate sector, 35 offices in prime areas in Madrid, Costa del Sol, Cádiz, Sevilla, Canary Island, with approximately 450 employees. We offer the client the best service from start to finish. We help the client book the hotel, pick them up from the airport, show the area, the visit, and to view the properties according to what they're looking for. It is safe to buy with Gilmar's Real Estate because we are governed by Spanish law, and all properties are legally supervised. All properties are direct listings, and we market several new developments under exclusive contract. Our after-sales business unit is our best source of added value, where we offer comprehensive advice to our clients in collaboration with the leading companies in each sector, such as alarm, moving, all related with the property management service. And of course, it's a free after-sale advice. We offer second-hand, new build, land, etc. We are currently marketing 8 very attractive new developments on the Costa del Sol, which I will be delighted to show you at any time. Thanks to the online platform that we have created, it makes available to customers and which brings together an exclusive selection of new built developments. Visitors can quickly and intuitively access a search engine using keywords or cities, property types, townhouses, apartments near golf course, on the beach, etc. And minimum and maximum prices. So I invite you also to get into our website, Gilmar Off Plan. And it's a very, very interesting tool providing access to highly valuable information to help you to make the right decision. As I said before, it has been 6 years we have decided to implement the latest technologies. The decision means buyers can now tap all detailed information on the property they are looking for from anywhere in the world and complete purchase process with full legal guarantees. Confident that our team of professionals can cover and meet answers any questions they have on the transaction. So we always say it isn't about selling, it's about making people happy. Our best advertisement is the number of clients who are satisfied with their new properties and with the attention they have received from us. I wanted briefly also explain what LPA is. It's the first real estate association on the coast of the Sol, where I'm one of the vice presidents. It's the acronym for Leading Property Agents of Spain. As I said, it's an association of different professionals in the real estate sector. It promotes Marbella and the coastal Sol as a destination for holidays and second home ownership. It promotes transparency, collaborative knowledge among its members. It offers its members networking opportunities. The other day, I read a very curious article that says that the number of young British seeking to move to Spain increases by almost 500% on year. And these are British aged between 18 and 24 years old that they are viewing Spanish property on this platform, Quiero.com. So this is a very curious percentage and very high. And this is, as we know, because of the pandemic. Finn, if you can share the tables of the numbers of sales in Spain. Are we able to share it?
Of course, I'll get that up for you now.
These are the off-plan properties sold in Spain and the second-hand flats sold in Spain. So these are good percentages that you can feel how the market is since 2014. These numbers, these percentages, we have it, we collaborate with the real estate business school called REP. And yeah, you can see that on the screen. According to the table of the second hand, well, we are now on the new construction. According to the table of the new construction, we can see a small drop in the number of sales and purchases in 2020 compared to 2019. A high percentage of the buyers were foreigners, and as we know, it was complicated by closing the borders. And the other table thing is regarding the second-hand market. So we can appreciate that indeed in 2019 was a good year for everyone, and where the maximum of sales since 2014 has been closed. 2020 has closed a little less, but we consider that they have been good numbers. What we are perceiving from Gilmar Real Estate is that the British are still interested in our country. The calls we receive tell us that they are waiting to get vaccinated to buy flight tickets and come right away. Another percentage are studying the possibility of applying for the Golden Visa, as you know, was established in Spain in 2013, aimed for non-EU residents, and the only requirement is to visit Spain once during the period of residence. So this is a quite important point because customers who already own a property after 2013 and who bought more than 500,000 euro are in time to apply for the golden visa as well. So, but I think Alex from MLS Solicitors, our next speaker, will explain it more in detail. And just one last point that I wanted to point out is that teleworking is a reality. And this allows many British to make the decision to move to our region and maintain the professional activity while enjoying the quality of life. We continue working to offer you the best service so that you choose our country. Thank you so much for your attention. And Alex Radford is our next speaker.
All right. Thanks, Setareh. Thank you very much. It's a nice overview there. Yeah, it reflects a lot of the feedback I've been getting over the last few weeks when I've been researching this. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that's for sure. Now I'd love to hand over to Alex. Alex has got his finger on the pulse with the property sector. And Alex, over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Derek, and the British Chamber of Commerce team for the kind invite. My name's Alex Radford. I'm an English solicitor and Spanish lawyer. My parents moved out to Spain in 1981, went back to the UK to study and to become a lawyer in the 90s and returned to Spain in 2003. And since then, we've been primarily acting for British and English-speaking clients, buying, selling and inheriting property and doing business in Spain, across Spain, the whole of Spain and its islands. And of course, you know, the referendum result in the UK in 2016, that brought a massive curveball, and that curveball kind of came back and kind of completed its process at the end of last year. So I'm going to touch on a little bit on Brexit shortly, and also, of course, during the pandemic, we've had that's affected the market as well. Before I came on to talk to you, I was looking at some of the statistics, and according to psos.com, in the first 6 months of 2020, British buyers purchased 3,917 properties, and that was 41.4% less than 2019 and 48.6% less than 2018. So you can see that the number of British buyers since 2018 has decreased quite dramatically. And in 2009, British buyers represented 32% of the foreign property purchasers, and now in 2020 they're down to 15%. Reading through the statistics and the messages from various websites, what's clear from our point of view is that the future health of the real estate sector here in Spain, which the Costa del Sol and the Costa Blanca and the Canaries and Mallorca are closely linked with, is the pandemic. So the rollout of the vaccination program in Spain and across Europe, and particularly across the UK as one of their larger markets. After Brits, it was the French market which came next, followed by Belgians and Germans. So what we've seen is that the more people that visit a country on holiday, they then decide to buy a property here or eventually move to live here. Talking to agents and colleagues again before this seminar, I asked them, what the strengths, what the opportunities and challenges were for their sector, and they basically said, look, at the moment the appetite has never been greater to purchase a Spanish property, but of course people can't come to Spain at the moment, so there's travel restrictions. So we're expecting a lot of pent-up demand, which will hopefully come to fruition when borders do open. Interestingly enough, Spain opens its borders to the UK on the 30th of March at 6 p.m. 30th of March at 6 p.m. But at the moment, UK nationals cannot leave the UK to come on a foreign holiday because that's not considered a reasonable excuse. But what is considered a reasonable excuse is looking to buy a property. So that will be an interesting one to see how that evolves, because basically British people wishing to move to Spain could potentially argue that it's a reasonable excuse that they're coming to Spain for X amount of days to view properties. And if they have a letter from agents and from lawyers confirming that they are putting in place powers of attorney, NIs and bank accounts or mortgages to buy a property or setting up currency accounts, then that's evidence of their move. So since Brexit, last year it was much easier for a British person to come to Spain. They could jump on a plane, come out here. And I was talking to someone today. He came 5 years ago, was on a plane and liked it, found a job, and he hasn't gone back since. Of course, that can't happen now, because as a result of the UK leaving the EU, any British person coming to reside, work, or retire in Spain now needs a visa. And generally the most popular types of visa that we're seeing are, as Setareh mentioned, we've got the golden visa. So if you've purchased a property since the 27th of September 2003 onwards for more than 500,000 euros or a selection of properties, and you're a non-European, then you can apply for the golden visa. And if you apply for that from the UK, when it's granted, it will be initially for a 1 year period, and then it has to be renewed every 2 years here. Whereas if you apply for the visa from here, it's actually granted for a period of 2 years. It's commonly known as the golden visa. However, the 1 year visa, the correct terminology is residency visa for investors, and the 2 year visa, if you get it applying from here, is initial authorization for investors' residency. So I would recommend that clients, if they can, they apply for it from here. The application costs at the Spanish consul are actually they're over £1,600 for the application, whereas here we're talking about 90 euros. So a little bit of a difference. But so what's happened, Derek, is that whereas people could jump on a plane before and just come to Spain and sort out their residency, they can't really do that much now unless they bought a property for over 500,000 euros. Those people whose pockets don't reach as deep can apply for what's known as a non-lucrative visa, and they can't work with that visa. So they can come to Spain, they can retire, they can reside in Spain, but they've got to apply for that visa to the Spanish consul in the UK or their home country. If they're non-Europeans, they've got to have private medical insurance in place. They've got to have a clean criminal records certificate. And if it's for a married couple applying, then they've got to have a duplicate marriage certificate, as well as a health certificate confirming that they don't suffer from any World Health Organization diseases such as cholera or Ebola. And COVID isn't included in that health form. But that process, it takes about 1 or 2 months for applicants to prepare the documents. We're helping them submit those documents online to the Spanish consulate. Each application is made in person, and then there's a pre-interview stage. Clients go along to the interviews, and then basically it's taking between 2 and 3 months for the Spanish consul to process those applications. So from start to finish, we're seeing a period of basically 6 months. That's very different to what it was last year. However, what I can say is, now the real change now is that people coming to Spain, Brits coming to Spain, can only really spend 90 days in 180 days. So you could come to Spain, buy the property, put the visa place in motion and go back to the UK. But that becomes more difficult if you're setting up in the UK with your whole family and coming out to Spain. And the financial requirements have changed as well. Last year, you needed between 6,000 and 9,000 euros in a bank account, and you had to show income of 850 euros. Whereas this year, the main applicant has to prove that they've got 27,115 euros in the bank account, and each dependent is 6,778 euros. So for a couple, that's 33,893 euros in a bank account to get the visa. That visa lasts for a year, and when they renew it, the visa is granted for a 2 year period, and they've got to prove that they've got double that amount, which is so that's quite a lot of money to have in a bank account. For a family of 4, they will need €47,449 in a bank account, and when again it gets renewed, they'll need 94,898. So this is going to put off a lot of people, I believe, from actually moving out to Spain, because they won't be able to meet the requirements, which is a great shame. And that tallies in with some of the comments I've received from agents where they're saying that properties on the 400k plus mark are still selling, but the lower end is actually harder to sell at the moment, because there's a lot of people who want to buy a property in Spain, but not spend more than €400,000. On the contrary, so that the higher end is still moving and is really quite active. So I'm talking the million euro plus. So Brexit has changed quite a bit there. Oddly enough, as well, there's an old Ministry of Defence law dating back to 1975, and that basically states that if a non-European buys a property close to a military installation, then they need permission from the Ministry of Defence to be able to buy that property. And so that that's delaying the purchase process as well, because the Ministry, again, it takes about 1 or 2 months to collate the documents to submit to the Ministry of Defence, and the Ministry of Defence is taking about 2 or 3 months. So not so much an issue on the Costa del Sol, but down at Alcaidesa, Tarifa, La Linea, there's some military installations there. A British person would need authorization from the Ministry of Defence to buy a property. And further up in the Costa Blanca, the Cabo Roig, parts of Torrevieja area are affected by that. So really, from our point of view, it's business as usual. We're still seeing a strong amount of inquiries. We're seeing a lot of clients wanting to put matters in hand, so putting powers of attorney in place, setting up bank accounts, talking to mortgage brokers, talking to currency companies, talking to agents, and getting ready to come to Spain when they can do so. And I suppose the real, the sting in the tail is that they won't be able to spend as much time in Spain as they'd wanted to. It's restricted to the 90 days and 180 days. If they're here for any longer, then they actually would be in Spain illegally. So, Derek, that's it from my point of view. The future of the real estate industry on the Costa del Sol and Costa Blanca and across Spain, in our opinion, is really carefully aligned with the vaccination rollout program. We hope that really does get off to a flying start as soon as possible here in Spain, and we look forward to working with all our partners, with our clients in the future.
Thanks very much, Alex. Much appreciated, and it gives us a much clearer view of what's going on. There was also some other questions on the chat which we can look at later. Also, I'd like to welcome Jose Felix from Seville Newman, who's come on. Good afternoon to you. I'd like now to hand over to Mark Elliott from Fluent Finance. Of course, buying properties, there has to be finance somewhere along the line. And Mark's been around in this business for a long, long time. So I'll hand over to you, Mark, to get your view of finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek, and thank you to the Chamber for inviting me onto the panel. I hope what I will say you will find interesting. I will tell you a little bit about my history and the company that Fluent Finance Abroad. Originally, I'm from the UK, from London, and I worked in financial services for Scottish widows, and I actually got involved in the mortgage industry just after September 11th, 2001. Where I worked as a mortgage broker for John Charcoal in the London area. And therefore I'm a UK qualified mortgage consultant. I've been operating as a Spanish mortgage consultant since 2004, and I set up Fluent Finance Abroad in 2006. So I've been here for 16 years. It's been an interesting time for 16 years. We've only had one pandemic, luckily, but we've had a financial crash back in 2008 in Spain, which lasted in Spain until 2014. So I've been around working with Spanish banks for quite some time, through some good times and some pretty bad times. So hopefully I'm qualified to talk to you about these things. I'm actually a Spanish qualified mortgage consultant registered with the Bank of Spain as well. Fluent Finance Abroad ourselves, we're an independent mortgage consultancy, and the idea behind our business is to emulate what a mortgage broker would do in the UK. That's just plain and simple. We speak to our clients, we offer them what we call best advice, and our job really is to maximize the amount of lenders that we are able to approach to offer the clients the widest possible choice when picking a lender to potentially help them buy a property in Spain. Okay, Fluent Finance Abroad is registered as well with the Bank of Spain, and our registration number is D305. That's a new regulation that came in. The new mortgage regulation came in June 2019. So we're one of the few mortgage consultancies that are registered with the Bank of Spain. Okay, I've been brought on to this panel to discuss how the real estate market is in terms from a bank perspective, from a mortgage lending perspective. And I'm quite pleased to say that things are fairly good in terms of how the Spanish banks are in terms of their liquidity. That's good news, but very similar to what Setareh was mentioned in her graphs and what Alex Radford mentioned just before me. Mortgage lending in Spain is obviously down because of the level of property transactions is down as well from 2019. But that doesn't mean to say that the banks are struggling in any shape or form. The banks, as we know, are part of the EU, and they're all part of the European Central Bank governing body. And at the moment, because of coronavirus, the ECB are looking at pumping quite a lot of money into the system to help businesses recover as quickly as possible when the restrictions are lifted. So the banks themselves are pretty healthy, and I'm glad to report that last year we actually had a slightly better year than we did the previous year. Now that's, for us, that's not. We're not solely related. There's other factors that come into that, but as a business, we're doing pretty well considering the coronavirus situation. In terms of coronavirus, obviously we are, it's not really affecting us in such an extent as it would be maybe a potential real estate company. The reason being is because we're not reliant on clients being able to visit to purchase. So a lot of our work is helping people complete on off-plan properties that they may have put deposits down 1 year ago, 18 months or 2 years, or sometimes even longer. So again, we're able to help those clients complete on the properties that they committed to well before the coronavirus became a thing or became a reality. And also, as I said, the one thing that the coronavirus, the pandemic has actually brought to the fore, and I think this is a huge benefit for anyone thinking of buying property in Spain, is that the majority of work can be done in terms of securing finance, securing legal representation, securing NIE certificates, securing power of attorneys, can be done without you even having to visit Spain. I'll give you a case in point that an advisor at Fluent Finance Abroad actually collaborated with Alex Radford from my lawyer in Spain, where a Russian national but British citizen ended up buying a property without seeing for 745,000 euros, where Alex and the advisor here, Julian, were able to go to visit the property, take video, send it back, give feedback, and the client, and we obviously arranged the mortgage for 400,000 without her even being in Spain, without even going into the branch to open a bank account. Everything was done remotely. And that's massive. That is that's actually helped us it's helped us to get through this difficult period, but I think it's going to help us in the future. Again, I've had 2 Zoom meetings with clients today, one as a general update and one as a new inquiry, and it's been a massive positive, I think, for all of our businesses that we can actually do what we're doing today, and we can have everything organised, and Alex will be able to confirm how that can work in terms from a legal point of view. So the coronavirus, yes, we are desperate for this to end and that the vaccines finally come out. But unfortunately, we're stuck with what we've got at the moment. But it's not the end of the world in terms of people being able to purchase in Spain, because they can do absolutely everything without even visiting, which is huge. Another thing that I need to talk about is Brexit and how Brexit has really affected. Well, the Brexit vote was in 2015. The majority of Spanish lenders factored in the Brexit effect well before this year. And what the effect it has had is that the general rule of thumb when it comes down to loan to values for British buyers is that the loan to value has been reduced from a maximum of 70%. Now, realistically, most British buyers should really expect to do their calculations on a 60% loan to value. Okay, so that's a real change that has been affected by Brexit. Again, being British is actually now no different than being American, Canadian, whatever. The lenders are still very open to lend to British nationals. The majority of our clients are British nationals or English speaking, and so therefore we're quite happy that that Brexit really hasn't had a major effect on Brits to ability to borrow in Spain. Another important point is that if you do get a mortgage in Spain, it doesn't reflect on your UK credit report, and Brexit will probably mean that will never happen. Okay, whereas there was talk before of credit agencies talking. So that means, well, what does that mean? That means great. So whatever you do in Spain, it won't affect your credit scoring in the UK. So you can keep both jurisdictions separate, which is also good. Another thing that's come into the market, which I think is going to affect us in some way, I don't know, hopefully in a positive way, is the merger between CaixaBank and Bankia. Now, Spain unfortunately isn't like the UK. We're not blessed with the amount of lenders that you can go to in the UK. For example, there's at least 400 lenders that you can go to that operate in the market. In Spain, we have to deal generally with the retail market and the retail banking. And at the moment, we're seeing our options being reduced. Now, with regards to the Bankia and Caixa merger, that's obviously turning 2 lenders into one. How that's going to affect our options, only time will tell. I think the full force of the merger won't come to any real consequence we will start to find out by the end of the year. One of the banks is quite open to lending. The other bank isn't particularly, from our experience. So that's one thing that we have to take into account. So our lending options might be a little bit more reduced, but then that may open an opportunity for another lender to come in and fill the void if there is one. Another important factor, and I've touched on it before because we are registered mortgage brokers, is the implementation of the EU directive regarding mortgage laws, which is the LCCCI mortgage laws, which came in June 2019. That actually recognises mortgage brokers as an important personality or an important figure in terms of who's able to give mortgage advice. Being from the UK, I'm a CMAT qualified mortgage advisor and worked under regulation in the UK. So I was quite shocked when I first got to Spain that there was no real regulation for mortgage brokers in Spain. Luckily for us, and luckily for the customer and for the client, for the end user, there is now. So anyone who sits there and talks to you about Spanish mortgages should be registered with a Bank of Spain. So that's quite an important development, and one everyone should really should ask themselves, are they speaking to someone who is really qualified to really talk to them about these things? I mentioned about remote working and pre-approvals. That, you know, our inquiry levels, as Alex mentioned, has not gone down. In fact, it's increased because there is a huge amount of pent-up demand that we're speaking to. People are desperate to be able to get some sun. And what we're finding is lots of people are doing their homework, I like to say, before they actually come and sit the exam. So what we're finding is that we're preparing people with their finances, making sure that they know what their maximum budgets are. So when they do get the green light to come and visit Spain and they're talking to the agent is showing them stuff that they can actually afford. Okay, that's that's huge, because it's huge for the client, because they don't spend lots of time touring properties that they can't afford and they don't want. And it's also important for the agent that they actually know what the maximum budgets are. So we can have all of that pre-arranged, the bank account opened, liaising with the lawyer. We're going to have NIE certificates, we're going to have power of attorneys. So what's it actually mean? It means that as soon as you see a property that you want to buy and you fall in love with, you know you can go forward, make an offer, and within 2 days we're going to value that property, and in a month we can be completing and you will have the keys. That service we've been offering for at least 6 or 7 years, but now, because it's being forced upon people, we are finding ourselves being inundated with that. And also with the pandemic, with the uncertainty, we're finding a lot of potential cash buyers are now looking at leveraging with a mortgage so that they don't use up all their cash just in case they may need it for another thing. So the mortgage person, the mortgage broker is becoming, is always been important, but we're finding now that more people are knocking on our door for good quality independent buyers to help them buy the dream. That's all really I've got to say. Apart from that, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'll hand back to Derek, and I'll see you soon.
Your speaker's on, Derek. Your speaker's off.
Can you hear me?
No, we can.
Okay, I beg your pardon. So I'll repeat it again. Thank you, Mark. I was talking about the fact that obviously everybody has money in other countries. They have to move it across borders. Currencies Direct is a member of the Chamber and has been for a long time. So let's see what Ignacio's got to say about currency, and also about the Royal Decree Law 38/2020, which he's going to talk about. Ignacio, over to you.
Thank you, Derek. Hello, everybody, and thank you for the invitation, and thank you all for being there this afternoon. Okay, my name is Ignacio Ortega. I've been working now for Currencies Direct for 9 years here in Costa del Sol. Very lucky. When I moved from the UK, where I study, now what we do, you probably know what we do, but what we've been doing is helping people to move money abroad since 1996, making us the most established currency providers in Europe, with offices in 4 continents and a team of over 500 currency experts. We transfer over 7 billion in international payments a year. Here in Costa del Sol, we have 16 offices. In Spain, 16 offices and more than 60 experts in currency. We work with more than 400 individuals and businesses. And when we say businesses, we have affiliates in different sectors, but obviously we collaborate with estate agents, lawyers. That is the businesses that we collaborate and help to transfer the money to purchase properties over the years. I always said it's really important to stay on top of currency news for individuals and for businesses as well. Because if you are updated on the news, it's going to help you to transfer the funds in a more effective way, and to save money as well. Because as you know, the currency exchange can change dramatically from one day to another. So, you know, for example, if a client is transferring 300,000 euros to purchase a property by using a currency provider and like Currencies Direct and getting the best rate, you can save up to 3%. So we're talking around probably 9,000 euros. So it's a lot of money, you know, when it comes to buy a property. It's a big save there. So what was latest in the currency news? The pound has found its attempts to rally over the past 2 years by concerns that both the UK's vaccination program and the government's reopening plans could be delayed. During these periods, we've seen GBP, the sterling to euro, remain close to 116. It's been quite stable over the last few weeks. I mean, that's the currency that we operate the most here between the, obviously here in Europe, between the UK. US dollar, while the euro has traded between 119 and 118. What we've seen as well, I mean, over the years, is it's not just obviously British buyers. We've seen a lot of transfer coming from the USA, even from Latin America, Canada, South Africa, and obviously the Scandinavian countries. So what is interesting is to see it's not just the British buying here and rely on the British buyers, even though it's the main market, I would say, for Costa del Sol. But it's a lot of interest, and even Spanish people that they've been working and living in South America or in the USA, they're coming back or they have money to invest. So we've seen transferring money even from Spanish people. So I mean that's from my side. What is the news about the currency market? Yeah, one thing that is important for me to communicate is really important for us to communicate. Is our obligation to communicate is about this new law, currency transfer and the law. Currencies Direct, since Brexit has started, we've been working on setting up an SL company, which finally we got it some time ago now. So we are Currencies Direct Spain SL. So we are registered and licensed by the Banco de España, and Currencies Direct Limited UK by the Financial Conduct Authority there. As we just post Brexit, that there are many things to consider, but if you or your clients need to move money abroad, there is one particular change and it's essential to be aware of. One particular note to people making international money transfer is the fact that UK financial service firms lost their financial services passport on 1st January 2021. What is a financial service passport? Before Brexit, the passporting of financial services meant that firms were able to operate in the European Union and European Economic Area under a UK-based license. UK has now lost these passporting rights. Any financial service firms, including currency transfer providers, must have a valid EU license if they want to continue working with customers in the EU EEA. And then is when it comes with the royal decree. The royal decree came into force on 1st January 2021 and includes a specific section about financial services and how firms from that sector can work with customers based in Spain moving forward. So, according to the royal decree, from the 1st of January 2021, UK authorized entities will be subject to the relevant Spanish legislation and applicable regimes in respect of third country firms. UK entities will have to obtain a new authorization to operate in Spain. The Bank of Spain, Banco de España, is the FX supervisor authority in Spain and can impose penalties on any currency providers who fail to comply with the decree in order to safeguard the interest of customers. So, what do you need to know? What do you need to know? Any currency transfer provider offering the services to customers based in Spain must be regulated by a relevant EU authority. If they aren't licensed properly and in accordance with the royal decree, they cannot renew contracts with existing customers or new customers or have new customers. They must also have concluded working with existing customers based in Spain by the 30th June 2021. So, to wrap up this, if you are using a currency transfer specialist to move money to or from Spain, and they haven't sent you any communication regarding a change of the license post-Brexit, get in touch with them to find out whether or not they have a valid EU license. This is a simple question and something they should be able to answer instantly. As mentioned previously, this license must be with the relevant EU-based regulator, like the Bank of Spain, or your provider should be able to tell the license number. Yeah? If your provider is only authorized by the FCA in the UK, they will be able to continue servicing your requirement from June. So when switching providers, find a currency company that is licensed to operate in Spain. You might also want to check things like their online reviews, whether or not they have won any industry award or when they were established, you know. So this is a small. I can also send. I can later, if you send me your email, I can send you the full document of the royal decree with all this information. Yeah, I think it will be very useful for you to have. Nothing else, you know. This is what for me what I wanted to inform you, and I appreciate that you give me this opportunity. So thank you all, and speak soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Ignacio. Thanks very much. That was very clear. Hope everybody can hear me. So our last but not least speaker is Campbell Ferguson, who is a chartered surveyor, has been around here for a long time, is nearly as old as me, I think. And basically, people are buying new properties, old properties, off-plan properties. Everything needs to be looked at in detail. So if you could give me a few words, Campbell, about how you go about things and about the market as well from your side. Okay, thanks, Campbell.
Okay, Derek, yes, thank you very much for the invitation, and having been involved in the start of British Chamber of Commerce. Maybe I should qualify that before Derek comes in. It was not in 1908. It's British Chamber of Commerce in Andalucía, I should say, having been on the committee then, which can't remember when it was, be about 2003, 2004, something like that. But anyway, right, there's a wide range of audience that I've got, so trying to tailor the talk for everyone. It can be general and it can be detailed. Just notes that I've made while listening to the others. One of the things is that the RICS, when the COVID, that's the chartered surveyors, who are based in Brussels and in London, I'm pleased to say, when COVID started, they said it was a limited market. The market had stopped, therefore all valuations had to have a caution on them because there wasn't a market. That caution has now been lifted because everybody is of the opinion there is a market. We were concerned about it because one banking client we had, they stopped asking us to do valuations because they said there is no market. We were able to show by doing a survey of lawyers, estate agents, finance people, everybody, old Mother Hubbard in her cupboard and everybody. We got them, and it showed very clearly that the market was still moving and there was a definite activity. Market values over the last wee while, we do a quarterly report, and there should be a new one coming up sometime in April. Finn, thanks for that. I'm not really following that at the moment, but the market values we're finding are fairly steady. As with all valuations, when we do, some go up, some go down, depending on where they are. We are finding, as Alex mentioned, the military thing. I'm not sure whether it is just that or something else, but certainly we've got to put a caution in our valuations now for Sotagrande in that area that there is this military problem. It's only for British buyers. It's not for buyers from Spain or any other EU country. It's for buyers from outside of the EU. So Americans and Moroccans, presumably as well, who are a substantial percentage of buyers in Spain. So it delays things a little. The margin, the one study that we do, which we feel is of most relevance to buyers, is the difference between the asking price and the actual sale price. Now, to find the actual sale price is extremely difficult in Spain. You've got to find, we tend to get it directly from our clients that we're doing building surveys for more than valuations, although they pretty quickly tell us if our valuation is very different from their asking price. But we're finding that the difference between these two is still averaging around about 7 to 8% on that. It's where there's a property that's in a prime area with a large demand. Of course, it can be, there is no discount. That's my price and that's it, and they'll get their price. There's other places that are secondary or tertiary, or just a foolish value has been put on the property initially. They don't get their price, and it can drop 25, 30% sometimes, the difference between the two. But what we're finding is that the general average is somewhere around about 8% on that. Now, I think that was just on the general things. Finn, if we can go back to what I prepared. Sorry, one other thing is that was mentioned, of course, is people coming out and buying without actually seeing the property. Now, we are ideally placed to assist those people. We are experienced, obviously, in looking at property. We do a building survey, a building conditions property survey for the people. And in doing that, we can provide video, and we can even provide a live video of question and answers to the client, so that we can go through the property, usually, well, definitely after we have surveyed it ourselves. We walk it through the property again with the video and take the video showing the defects or anything like that, or the nice cuddly dog if that's what the people want to see. And then we give our opinion of the problems with the property, and if it's on say a WhatsApp or something like that, the people can ask questions and we can answer them live. It's something we're just starting to do, so we'll see what happens with that. Right. Yes, we've looked at the yeah. Sorry, one other thing. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at my notes there. Yeah, you'll see a lot of dizzy British people going around at the moment in the next 7 days, because the first 90 days of residence expires on the 31st of March. That's in 7 days' time. So there's been things in the papers. There's been people bleating that well, not bleating to be fair to them, saying that there was one that I read that people had tried 4 times to get flights back to the UK, and each time the flight had been cancelled. Now, presumably, if those people were to hop across the border and stay in Gibraltar until they could get a flight back, that would mean they were out of the EU, so they would be okay, or they go to Morocco or somewhere like that. But they'd have to stay in those places for 90 days before they can come back again. So it's going to, maybe it will build up a market for houses in Morocco, that you go backwards and forwards. I hadn't thought of that, but there's always that idea. Houses in Gibraltar are just too expensive to be doing something like that. Their market values have risen hugely over the last wee while. Maybe because a lot of people from Sotareh and the like who used to live there now feel we're in Gibraltar, we've got to stay in Gibraltar, because the Spanish tax authorities are beginning to look at them and start charging Spanish tax on them if they stay there for more than 180 days. Right, back to property. Yeah, they said the valuations and development appraisals was the heading for it. Our niche, as I've mentioned, is really, we're principally involved with residential valuation. If you go back up to the other one, Finn, the first one, that's it. Principally involved in that, and our work can vary from assisting in the valuing of property portfolios for fund investors. There's a couple of times we've been assisting where there's been 10,000 or more properties in a fund that's maybe been bought from Setareh or from some other major bank, and they've been divesting themselves of that, and principally American funds are coming in and buying these. But to try and see 10,000 properties is very difficult. And one, I don't know whether it's an apocryphal story, but one I heard was that a certain pizza delivery chain had been employed to go around and take photographs of the properties in their location. And that way, the company managed to get photographs of all the properties on their portfolio, and they were able to value it from there. It's a nice story, but whether they get a free pizza with it as well, I don't know. So yeah, you can see what I'm saying, that we do large things like that down to single properties, which often have many problems. And as that one I've said, the hint to the problem was maybe in Cai Arroyo, and you could see that all the streets, all the doors there had barriers to stop the floodwaters coming in. And we had this naive, I'll be kind and call her that, woman who decided she was going to come in and buy that and do it up. I'm afraid, being in a pueblito as well, out in the country, it was never going to be a sensible opportunity. So she didn't do that. No matter the property, all comes down, valuation all comes down to the same basic things, which is, where is the property, as the old story goes, location, location, location. That applies to residential and commercial properties. Is it in a good area, say Sierra Blanca or something like that? With us, some of those are better than others. Some face the mountains, which some people like. Others have tremendous views over the town and towards the sea. So there's other properties with beach frontage, which with global warming must become a little less attractive, I'd have thought, upon occasions. And there's golf frontage as well. So it's that. Then there's all the different types of properties. As I say, there's the size of the property, which is the main thing that the valuations are decided on when we're comparing. We had the privilege, and I think it is a privilege, of looking at 2 properties recently. One of 3,000 square meters was the building, not the site. The building was 3,000 square meters, and the other one was 2,000 square meters. So it was, a joy to see those places. And then we go to other places that are maybe only 30 square meters, where it's just a studio. The style, the presentation of the property, there's the modern ones, the concrete frame ones, that some call them boxes, how would I say that? They've got domotics, they're very clever buildings, but often we find with them, and people have to take this into account, that they're so tight, they're so well built that there can be condensation problems within them. There's got to be good ventilation there to allow the heat build-up can be astonishing. It's got to allow that to go away and make sure, especially in winter time, that there's not any cold spots or anything that cause problems there. We've got to take these things into account when we're doing our valuations. Going on to the paperwork, fortunately, okay, Finn, in Spain we've got the title extracts, the nota simples and catastrals and everything. So we're able to do a lot of the work beforehand before we actually go out to the property. What we don't have is our actual sale prices. That's what we need. But it is possible to get some information and buy a subscription service from the registrars. But again, getting the prices that are recorded in the title deeds, I don't know if I would necessarily trust those absolutely, as there has been a tradition perhaps of maybe under declaring things, but that I'm sure has all stopped now. The analysis which I've mentioned before, there can be properties can be quoted at many different prices. Estate agents will do that. Gilmar will see some of the properties. I don't know. You mentioned that you have exclusives. If you have that, you don't have that problem. But sometimes receive a property in 4 or 5 times, and there are 4 or 5 different values, depending on what the agent has added on for their commission, or how bullish they're feeling, or how desperate they are to sell the property, and they undercut the value that the seller wants, in the hope of being able to argue it out with them when they've actually got somebody offering the money. So it makes it more difficult for ourselves, but we have to just use our judgment. The valuation, thank you, Finn, now moves on to it's the valuer. Valuation, it's always been described as both an art and a science. The art element is that we've got to judge what is the market going to do, the economic outlook, the capitalization rates, discount rates, etc. And just how the mindset really of the person who's going to be buying, and also the seller, what he's going to accept, he or she's going to accept on that. And the science, of course, is just the mathematical statistics of working out from the comparables how that all works its way through. There's a bing on the computer, you get the final answer, and you look at it and you think, nah, that's not right. So that's where the art comes in once again. You've got to use gut feeling and just general feeling. And this is something that within Survey Spain, we've been here 17 years. I've been working in Spain for more than 22 years now, so that it all builds up. We've got a network of surveyors and valuers that we can basically do anything from the Portuguese Algarve all the way around the coasts to Barcelona, plus the Balearic and Canary Islands. So building surveys and valuations, we're good at that. There's a quote from what the RICS requires that's their definition of how to work out a valuation, a true valuation, where the properties each acted knowledgeably, prudently, and without compulsion. That's the thing that we've got to try and judge. What would a prudent person pay for this property? Differences between RICS and Taciture valuations. Mark, you'll have seen this on many occasions, where the Taciture valuation comes in and it's just not right. But if you dig down into it, we've done our valuations, and then the Taciture valuation comes in and it's different. And we've gone back to them and said, well, why is this? And we discover that there are various regulations or things that they are obliged to comply by when they're doing valuations. If, for example, an urbanization, a small part of it is affected by the Ley de Costas, the coastal law, even an apartment that is away at the other end of the urbanization, that has got to be taken into account. It's just an unfortunate thing that's what they have to do. I've said a wee bit more about that, but I am generally respectful of their valuers. They try their best at things, but very often the actual valuers, once the fee comes down to a certain level, they get a very small share of it. So they maybe have to do 4, 5, 6 valuations in a day. So they run around these places and then they've got to fill in the forms and everything like that. They don't have the time to look at the comparables carefully, and they tend to maybe to use the comparables from to use their previous valuations as comparables, because that's easily done just with a click of the computer. The only problem is it's good for consistency, but if the first valuation is wrong, they're all going to be wrong. So it's a difficult matter. We look at each property individually and we don't value according to our previous valuations. We take those into account, but the main influencer on us is the asking prices of the properties that we find as comparables. We then go on to development appraisals. Yeah, that's it takes into account the art and science of the valuer, and the soothsayers have said skills of estimating the things. I think you could move it up, Finn. Thank you. Simplistic terms, we've got to find the cost of building the place. We've got to find what the market value is going to be in 3 or 4 years' time, perhaps. And then the difference between the two is what the developer should be prepared to pay for the land and the profit he's going to get at the end of the day. Now, 3 or 4 years' time, things can change. We know that very clearly. Things can change hugely. Nobody will have counted in having a plague of the proportion of COVID when they were doing their development appraisals. But some of that is definitely at the beginning was definitely bad. There will be some people thinking, here we go, 2007, 2008 again. But it's not been affected that way. It has affected the market in slowing the market down. But the demand is still there and pent up, as people have been saying. And I'm quite confident that the Costa del Sol, that all the Spanish places are going to see more and more people coming out here for the lifestyle, coming out to live here. Yes, they'll have to fill in visa forms, they'll have to do this, they'll have to do that. That's the British ones. But there are so many other Europeans who are coming out here now, and they're the ones that are going to be filling up that gap and taking on the places for the people. So that I think I am very confident that over the next 4, 5, 10 years, you're going to see a large expansion of the market in Costa del Sol, large expansion of demand, which thankfully is the case because there's a hell of a lot of property out there that is waiting to be taken up. And each new development that comes on is better spec, maybe not the best location, but usually a better spec, and it's got the strength of marketing of companies behind it, so that somebody that comes in and buys in one of those places, they then in a year or 2 years' time, when they have to take it on, hopefully they will employ somebody like us to do a snagging survey, because very often we find the specification of what's built is very different from the specification of what was promised, and there are discussions on that. But once that's been done, if the person decides within 6 months, say, no, for some reason I want to go somewhere better or somewhere different, they are then going to be trying to sell against the marketing of the developer if they are still selling other properties. So that's going to be a difficult one for them, and it makes it a very difficult double market within some developments that are there. You've got the developer marketing at his full price and pushing it forward, whereas you've got the individual who is wanting to sell and he's undercutting that price sometimes by 20 or 30% just to get the place sold. So it makes it a wee bit difficult for us to do things. So basically, it's been very brief, general run through business life of a valuer. But despite it, its many frustrations, I can't think of a better place to carry out the work. And I'll be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Derek. You're muted again, Derek.
Sorry, Campbell. Thank you very, very much. That was interesting, to say the least. I'm just going to now push on to Setareh, who we did a poll. Setareh, can you give us some feedback, please? Hello? Setareh?
She's on mute.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah, I just
I'm
say,
with you. I'm with you.
yeah, we did the poll. Could you give us a little bit of feedback if there is such a thing?
Okay, let me take a look quickly. Okay, the first question was, are you a interested buyer, independent seller, developer, agent, investor, or other? Okay, so, okay, interested buyer, that's good. We have between us interested buyer then, and independent seller, and others. Okay. Second question, in which region do you think the Spanish property sector will be most active this year? Okay, we all agree that Andalucía is a preferred destination. And yeah, I'm with you too, that Andalucía is the main target. The future for the Spanish property sector is both exciting and volatile. So strongly, yeah, we agree and strongly agree. Okay. Yeah, in my point of view, the 2021, it will be a little bit less of activity. For that, we need the vaccines. Well,
we did a poll. Setareh, can you give us some feedback, please?
Okay, let me take a look quickly. Okay, the first question was, are you a interested buyer, independent seller, developer, agent, investor, or other? Okay, so, okay, interested buyer, that's good. We have between us interested buyer then, and independent seller, and others. Okay. Second question, in which region do you think the Spanish property sector will be most active this year? Okay, we all agree that Andalucía is a preferred destination. And yeah, I'm with you too, that Andalucía is the main target. The future for the Spanish property sector is both exciting and volatile. So strongly, yeah, we agree and strongly agree. Okay. Yeah, in my point of view, the 2021, it will be a little bit less of activity. For that, we need the vaccines, well, the vaccination as soon as possible. So both government and EU, they have to work more than ever to make these vaccines a reality. And I read a question of I don't remember who was it, Liam maybe, that he was asking on the chat that what owners want nowadays. They want to make their properties more desirable or nicer. I believe the owners, well, we had like enough time, 1 year, we were all at home, and we know how we want our future properties. So of course they wish to have it nicer, and they would like also to have it more energy saving. Many of the buyers, and Scandinavian and many British, they look for that energy saving properties. So this is the point that we are also advising the developers to have that energy certified savings, and we are also advising that they create that space inside the buildings to do the remote working, the teleworking. So because, well, at home maybe it's a bit small and maybe they don't have space, so it's a good time for the developers to have spaces inside the building to have that meetings maybe and to work.
Okay.
What else? Yeah.
Okay, so Tara, thanks. We've got to push on now to the Q&A, okay? I'd like to open up the Q&A. We've got a couple of our members, which I mentioned before, from Madrid and Barcelona. So I'd like to kick off with Jose Felix of Saville Zagira Newman, if he's got a question. Felix, could you mention?
Hello.
Yeah.
I am in my car. I have to a meeting in Malaga, but I hear you so carefully. Okay. Do you hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you. Any comments?
No, okay. I just wondering to talk about not only on residential stuff. I'm talking about it because we are having a lot of interest for some fans and clients about hotels and offices and some lands and in Costa del Sol. And what do you think about that? What do you feel about the opening of hotels or commercial stuff in Costa del Sol? And for us, it's so important because we are having a lot of interest from so much funds in focusing hotels in Costa del Sol and waiting for the foreigners, but looking so hard for that thing.
Okay, okay, thanks, Felix. Could I ask Alex, you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, we are acting at the moment for numerous clients who are trying to sell hotels, and clients have currently got those hotels closed. They've got resorts closed. They've got staff on ERTE, so it's not a great time at the moment for people to buy for people to sell hotels. But I would have thought it's a great opportunity for people to buy them, so long as they've got deep pockets and can weather the initial crisis. But from what I'm seeing in the press, there's more hotels for sale at the moment than buyers.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And our friend from CBR, Richard Ellis, is on the line as well. Have you got any comments? Anyone there? No? Okay, let's push on then. Anybody got a specific question which we can put to the panel?
Yes, I have, Derek.
Okay, who is that?
It's Campbell here.
Right, okay.
Yeah, to Mark, I think I heard or read that Irish banks, at least one Irish bank, is offering better mortgage terms to properties that have better energy ratings. Has there been any sign of that over here?
There is, I think it's more aimed for the resident market, and there is what they call hipoteca verde, but it's a very new thing and nothing that's really filtered down to anything that's actually of any major concern to us. The general rule of thumb is that it's a complicated one. The majority of the houses are pretty inefficient. I'm sure you know the energy certificates on my particular house isn't particularly great, and that's not a particularly old house. So I don't know how many of them would qualify for the green energy. And obviously getting things like solar panels installed in Spain is not straightforward, which would help. So at the moment it's not, yeah, I'm sure in Ireland, it might be a bit easier to obtain, but it's starting to come out, but it's not something which is being rolled out en masse at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question from Anna Klevtsova about the golden visa question. Have you had cases of the UGE office rejecting resident applications resubmitted from Spain? If you're there, Anna, could you come on the line, please?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we can hear you. Which company are you from? Could you tell us, please?
I work in Clevenvera law firm, and we work with investors from different countries, including the UK. And I've heard some rumors. I'm asking because we haven't had such cases in the office. But I heard from some people that the UGE office takes that criteria, that for golden visa applications submitted by British citizens in this last few weeks, because it's really these 90 days when they can apply during this legal stay in Spain as a non-resident. And some people say, I didn't see any confirmation whether it's true or not, but some people say that the office, the immigration office, oblige them to apply under the withdrawal agreements as beneficiaries instead of applying for a golden visa as investors. Have you ever had cases like this? Have you submitted golden visa applications in these last weeks from British citizens?
Alex, could you answer that, please?
Yeah, we are. You know, thanks for the question, Nana. Yeah, we are acting at the moment for various clients submitting golden visa applications, and you know, but basically we look when we're instructed by the client, we look at all of their circumstances. So, were they here before the end of last year? Would they qualify under the withdrawal agreement to apply for residency? Or if they didn't, do they have a property worth 500,000 which they bought after 2017, which could qualify them for the golden visa? So we look at all those circumstances, and depending on which suits them best, we then apply for the visa. We haven't had any golden visas rejected at the moment on that criteria that you're mentioning, or any golden visas rejected at all. All of those have gone through.
Okay.
Even just once, to clarify, those ones that you submitted in the last weeks and approved in the last weeks, and the person was here before the Brexit deadline, before the 31st of December.
No. So the ones that we're acting for at the moment, they're clients who already own properties, and we're submitting those applications now. Because they've realised that basically they want to spend more than 90 days in a 180-day period in Spain. They weren't, in those cases, they weren't here. The ones I'm thinking of, they weren't here before the end of the last year. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks very much. I've got another question from Ian Kelleher from Echo Vida Homes. Ian's up in Granada. Ian, if you could come on the line, please. Liam?
Yeah, sorry. Liam Keller Architects, not Echo Vida Homes. No,
I beg your pardon.
No, sorry, that's why you threw me. No, it's just a case of point. You were bringing up some information regarding the sort of energy saving to do with buildings. There is, through there is some grants for this. It can be a little bit difficult and to get into, but it does look at energy saving and improving the energy efficiency of buildings through refurbishments. They have a number of things. One of the things I am seeing quite a lot is people just sticking solar panels on the roof, and although that's kind of nice, you know, might cut your energy bills, it's kind of a waste of time, because, you know, the reason we use fossil fuels is they're quite efficient. We've got a lot of them, and we use a lot of energy. You've really got to cut down the amount of energy that you use in your building. Looking to take it from about 220 kilowatts per square meter down to about 15. Once you do that, then using solar energy panels, having efficient fridge freezers, etc., starts becoming useful. Otherwise, you're not really going to see the benefits of it. And it's something that, you know, Setareh and some of the other estate agents could be bringing to the attention of buyers, because there's probably quite a lot of property in Marbella that was built, you know, 20, 30 years ago, that is in a very desirable location, but has really poor quality insulation, and can be, you know, there could be a lot of added value there, and I'm sure they're aware of it, but it's something that it might be useful to get the market going, especially at the lower ends. And I'm sure something Campbell can also tell you about, you know, the problems of damp, even in, you know, damp, black mold, staining, even in buildings that are down on the coast where you have a lovely weather conditions, but there are still problems with damp and cold bridges in these old buildings. Okay, that's just what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Liam. I know who you are now. Sorry. I just got a question of my own, actually. It's the original properties and new builds, new developments on the Costa del Sol. Is there a feel for the percentage of new developments that are already built or taking place this year? Is like a 30%, 40%? Is any figures that spring to mind for anybody? Maybe Setareh?
Sorry, I'm not clear of your. Sorry, I'm not Setareh, by the way. I'm not clear of your question, Derek.
Okay, my question was, you see a lot of new developments, or either built already or in the process of being built. Okay, obviously a lot of them have not been marketed yet. As a percentage of the whole, would that be 20%, 30%? What are there? Is there an increased demand for new builds? That's what my question is.
Yeah, the new build, we perceive a good demand, okay? But as I said before, the last year it was quite difficult and stopped that new building because of the foreigners. The borders were closed, and mainly the buyers for that new developments are foreigners. Even though I believe that the new developments in whole Costa del Sol, they're already more than 50% sold on. Now we have, well, the prices didn't drop. Okay, the prices are stabilized, and yeah, and will remain like that. The tables that I have shared to you, we can see that, well, okay, the percentages are a bit less, but for 2020, we see that the number of purchases and the prices all are more stable. And hopefully, well, I don't know the future. Hope I knew, but it will be stable. I mean, for Costa del Sol.
Okay, thank you. We've got time for another couple of questions. Anybody like to take the floor? Nobody?
Yeah, Derek, I was just asking Mark there, what are the best mortgage rates for residents and non-residents at the moment on the mortgage side?
Okay, thanks a lot, Alex. Well, there's two sides to this coin. It's whether or not, well, there's, if you take residents and non-residents, four. So if we look at the resident side of things, I signed a mortgage this morning for a fixed rate for a Spanish resident, Spanish taxpayer. And the rate was amazing. It was a fixed rate for 20 years at 1.34%. The only products that the client had to take was the home insurance and an element of life insurance, so that didn't affect the true cost of the lending. So that was pretty amazing. On a variable rate side of things, you should, a Spanish resident should be aiming for Euribor +1 or Euribor +0.9. But again, with Spanish banks, you have to be very careful and find out what add-ons do they take. For example, there is a lender out there that will insist on life insurance, opening a bank account, getting a credit card, having their alarm system fitted in order for you to get that 0.99. Now, with rates being at at minus zero, Euribor rates at minus 0.50, you could be paying 0.5% for your variable rate. So that's very attractive indeed. For non-residents, rates are a little bit higher, dependent in general. I mean, if you're an A1 client, we can get you rates very similar to resident. But in general, you should be aiming for a variable rate just below 2%. So 1.85% above Euribor or 1.75. I mean, recently we just managed to secure one variable rate of 1.4 for a non-resident client. Again, you need to be aware, be careful, because Spanish banks are pumping or touting fixed rates at the moment, because there was a recent report from CaixaBank where they are actively saying that they expect interest rates to remain super low for at least another decade. So that's why they're very keen on selling fixed rates at rates above 2%, because they know they're going to be earning some money there. So again, this is where we come into them, you know, into the fore. We will be able to speak to clients, understand what makes them tick, and then advise accordingly, and then obviously find the best rate in the market. But that's what we really wish we're aiming for.
You recommend the clients fixed rates then for nowadays?
No, we don't. Well, we ask the clients what their plans are for the property. For example, the clients this morning, their residence in Spain is going to be their main home. They're not looking at changing or moving or doing anything else. So the clients came to the conclusion that they would prefer a fixed rate, because they wanted to know what their payments would be for the next 20 years, because that's their life goal. An alternative would be a foreign investor or a foreigner buying a second home. They would make more often would prefer a variable rate, because there are no redemption penalties, or very minimal redemption penalties with a variable rate. That means they have added flexibility to pay lump sums off of them of the mortgage. That's very important for Brits, especially, or foreigners with different currencies. We're seeing the pound strengthen against the euro, so a lot of clients are now sending pounds over into euros to pay down the mortgage. So a variable rate would be preferable, because there's no redemptions, and also they don't know where they're going to be in 5 or 10 years' time. So why would you want to be fixed into a particular bank for 20 years when in the future you may decide to sell the property and move to France, or sell the property, move the money back to the UK, or sell the property to upgrade? So it all depends on the client's circumstances as to what we would recommend the client would do. But we have access to all of them, so, and the knowledge to be able to communicate that to a client, to make them see, or for the client to choose what's right for them, really.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I think on that note, we will close today. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to all of the speakers. I think a lot of you have used the chat. You can make the connections there. From my point of view, it's been very interesting. I think we've covered all of the areas relating to this topic. I'd like to say that anybody wants to join the chamber, you're more than welcome. Our members can join us at the end of April for our event at Los Monteros. And at the end of the day, from the chamber, from the team, thank you, the team from the chamber in the back office. Thank you, Finn. Thank you, all the speakers. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.